All right, I think we're good.
Okay. Okay, I now call to order this meeting of the Traffic Safety Commission on October the 3rd, 2023. We'll start off with the roll call. Ryan, may we have the roll call, please?
All right, Chair Davies.
Aye.
Vice Chair Weiss.
Present.
Commissioner Maxwell.
Present.
And then we have Officer Gichi is here representing the police department in place of Jason Clevin, and then Ryan McLean here for staff. Looks like that is all of us.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. So we turn to the public comment section. We will now move into that. The public is welcome at this time to address the Traffic Safety Commission on items within the Commissioner's purview, but not listed on the agenda. There will be an opportunity to comment on agenda items at the time they are discussed. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes per speaker. You can contact us through Zoom at www.zoom.us and click Join a Meeting and enter the following information. The meeting ID is 863-8294-7352 and the passcode is 670541. You can also call on your phone, and that is 669-900-6833. You may use the raise hand feature in a Zoom to let staff know you wish to make a public comment. If you're calling in by phone, you press *9 to raise your hand. You will be brought into the meeting when it is your turn to speak. Once in the meeting, we ask that you state your name and city of residence for the record. Do we have any waiting for public comment, Ryan, apart from Mr. Prozak, who's here in person?
Yeah, let's start with Mr. Prozak.
Good afternoon. I'm Jack Prozak. I'm getting a little feedback there. Got a couple, several small items here to mention to you. I live on Bifrost Avenue, just off of Norris Drive. Been there for 46 years now, so very, very familiar with everything, certainly that happens within a mile of my house, which includes the police station. So some good news. I asked about getting the striping on Helen Road at Gregory Lane repainted, and the city has managed to get that done here quite quickly. On Civic Drive, I noted the sidewalk gap between the two driveways into the police station, and that was poured today. On some other items, going from on the south side of Taylor Boulevard from Civic Drive, the new intersection where the new stoplight is going in front of the office buildings at 391, addressed as 391, 395, and 399 Taylor. That asphalt path is in terrible condition. It's definitely not suitable for handicapped wheelchair people and such. It's long overdue to be replaced, but it's had very little usefulness until the new stoplight goes in at Civic and Taylor. So I think the city needs to get after the owners of that property and get that accomplished sometime between now and I'd say the end of the year. Also at the 401 Taylor Housing Development Project, which is the one at the corner of Lucille. And by the way, when I first moved here, Lucille Lane stopped south of the creek and didn't connect to Taylor Boulevard at all. There was just a little stub road of North Drive there that served the two office buildings. But there now appears to be a gap in the asphalt path on the south side of the street there between basically the property line extended, which the developer has put in a new path up to that point, but between there and the bridge over the canal, there's now nothing but gravel and not very even, and certainly not in any way handicapped accessible. We're also wondering when they're going to actually do the striping, restriping of that street, that block there on Lucille. And thirdly, I would point out that at least the design documents showed a whole new thing for Pleasant Hill, and that's the green zone, stopping area for bicyclists. And I think there needs to be some education of our citizens to that effect as to what that really means. And that's the end of my comments here for public comment.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jack, that's for your contribution. Do you wish to respond immediately, Ryan?
Well, I'll take those all back to our staff that are working on that project. I'm not sure about the timing of the striping yet, so I'll look into that. But yeah, so I'll look into the timing of that and also bring up those gaps that he's talking about.
Okay.
And we do not have anyone on the line raising their hands.
Okay. So we assume there's no further public comments at the moment on the open items. So we move to approval of the September the 5th, 2023 meetings minutes. Are there any comments or changes suggested or corrections thought of?
There's just one correction on item 10, the second line. I inquired about installation of channelizers. You've noticed in Walnut Creek with multi-lane arterials, I guess it should be, not materials. It's a nit to pick, but
No, it should be right.
it should be right, yeah.
Changes the meaning.
Yes, yes. Otherwise, I would move approval of the minutes with that amendment.
Second.
Can we take a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
So-
minutes approved.
The minutes are approved. May I say I'm very impressed with the quality of the minutes that are written. I appreciate only too well how difficult it is to write concise comments down as minutes of meetings that picks out the essence as opposed to all the conversation that goes on. So I commend whoever puts those minutes together.
I will let Ginger know.
Is that you?
No.
Oh, it's not, okay.
That's Ginger.
I second that, actually.
Very good.
Okay, so thank you very much for everything. Now we'll move on. And I think the first item is the North Drive bicycle lanes. So I'll hand over to Ryan on that one.
All right, thank you, Chair. Just getting the presentation going. All right, so that should be shared out. So this was an item that was brought up at the last meeting that Mr. Prozac brought up and read before the group. And this is focused on North Drive between Taylor Boulevard and Civic Drive. So the first section there, which happens to be quite a bit wider than North Drive north from there, you can kind of see how it immediately necks down after that. And this was, the reason it came to our attention is that bike lanes are going in at Lucille with the 401 Taylor project to the south. And so continuing those, there's a desire to continue those across Taylor Boulevard to get to Civic Drive. So existing cross-section today is, this is looking north on Norse immediately after Taylor Boulevard. So right now it's divided into 4 vehicle lanes, basically a right turn lane going southbound that lasts the entire length of the block, and then a shared through left, and then a northbound left turn lane that goes the entire block and turns into the office park. I should mention that it's a signal at Taylor, a traffic signal, and then at Civic Drive, it's an all-way stop. And then a through lane that also goes north. Both the 2 outside lanes are fairly wide at 14 feet. So there is some room that we had to play with here. So looking at how this could fit a bike lane in this, just drew up some cross sections. This shows basically what we do is trade off the right turn lane going southbound for the left turn lane going northbound. So that frees up a lot of space if we only have 3 vehicle lanes. So as it approaches Taylor, it would still have a right turn lane, but just a single northbound through lane. And then we can fit buffered bike lanes in there. And then as you get closer to Civic, you lose the southbound right turn lane and pick up a northbound left turn lane. Now this obviously doesn't line up perfectly. So what this ends up looking like is this, as was mentioned before, more green, but a lot to highlight the bicycle path in there. And so you can see to the left, so sorry, this just got flipped. So north is going to the right now with Civic on the right side and Taylor Boulevard on the left. This is the striping that is currently proposed on Lucille. So a bike lane coming up to the intersection and then a bike lane also going southbound. It does line up pretty well across the intersection, but you can see there's only a single left turn lane going through across Taylor. So there was no reason to have 2 receiving lanes going northbound on Norse. And then things shift over to provide for the left turn lane on basically still to provide the left turn lane into the business at Civic Drive, but a much shorter turn pocket to that's more appropriate for the amount of vehicles turning in there. And then right turning vehicles onto Taylor Boulevard, coming southbound, cross over the bike lane. Again, highlighting that conflict zone is what this green does in this case. And then turning right onto Taylor. So this was a layout that worked out pretty well to use up a lot of that extra vehicle space that was a lot of excess capacity and to get facilities in there that tie in nicely to what's happening on Lucille. So the next steps for this, this has to go into just detailed design because there's kind of a lot of detail there that needs to be laid out for a contractor. We need to look for a funding opportunity. The 401 Taylor project is not responsible for striping this block north of Taylor Boulevard. But likely what we will look for is to incorporate it into a larger project that's got a striping contractor on board and could do this pretty efficiently. This section of Norse is not up for resurfacing anytime soon, so it would be either grinding or blacking out the existing striping to put in this new striping. So there is a fair amount of work to actually put this on the ground, but again, actually makes those Lucille bike lanes a little bit more useful to get people up to Civic. So that's all I had for that. Open it up for discussion and questions. Might leave this up on this. Well, let me see.
Brian, I have a question. You mentioned the term buffered bike lane. I'm not quite sure what you're thinking about as far as what type of buffering material you're proposing.
So in this case, it's just striped buffering. So,
Painted.
yeah, just painted, yeah. So similar to standard class 2, but you can see that there's the extra cross hatching striping there. It's similar to what's on Contra Costa Boulevard in several sections.
And the crosswalks will remain in the same place?
Yep, crosswalks all remain in the same place.
Bicycles will still be able to use those too, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
Could I ask if the right turning traffic flows are actually higher than the straight on or left turning ones?
The combined through left is higher than the right turning. So the right turns, I believe, were around 100 vehicles during the peak.
I don't need the details.
Well, I want to make sure I have the numbers right.
Have you done counts when the high school breaks during that period?
The counts that we were looking at were from the 401 Taylor project. So those were collected AM and PM peaks. So they get the morning peak for the overlap of school and commutes, but they don't capture the afternoon peak there. We might have some counts for the school time there,
It
so I'll
might be
look at that.
interesting to see because that's pretty jammed right at the, at least for about half an hour a day from the Y and, you know, the back of the high school.
Yeah, and some of this will be relieved when the signal goes in at Civic as well.
Thank you.
Do we have any information on how many people use bicycles in this particular segment? I know it's close to the high school and college.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers. I can look if we have any counts from there. It was 118 vehicles turning right during the morning peak hour onto Taylor Boulevard. And there's about 150 turning left and 50 going through in the afternoon or in the evening, which is the peak for that.
If one wanted to access the canal trail going south, I guess one way to do that would be to use this new bicycle lane. So it's there, cross Taylor, and then one can access the trail, what, a couple of 100 yards further along.
Yeah, you're talking about the new path that is connecting from Lucille up to the.
I mean, it's an existing path, right?
Using path.
I think it's an existing path from Lucille up to the canal.
Oh, yes.
West
Yeah.
of here.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Connects with Morello and all.
Mhm.
I seem to remember at one point, I'm not sure whether it was actually this one, but there was a concern that emergency vehicles couldn't get through if the signal was red and that the North Drive was full of traffic. But was that taken into account? It seems to me they actually could now. If both lanes move right to their extremes, there'd probably be a good pass through. But was that sort of factored in any way? Or?
There's still as much pavement out there as there was before. So, and the queuing was not, while it does back up, it does also clear out. So in this section, because it's so wide, I don't think that's a concern. And again, Civic Drive signal is going to also help with emergency vehicle access because that'll have preemption that will help stop traffic on Taylor so that, like, for example, the police can leave their facility easier.
Because these lanes are pretty unique, you know, I mean, especially the wider one not matching up perfectly with Lucille. Did you consider creating some type of a painted crossing over Taylor to keep the bicyclists from wandering?
Yeah, actually, we'll look into that.
It just,
Yeah.
it's just unique and
Mhm.
people are going to take a while to get used to it, I think.
Yeah, and it's actually becoming more common for bike lanes to be extended through intersections, especially,
Diagonals or-
yeah, especially if it's offset a little bit.
PC has it, I know that.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe we should invite public comment on this. Are you ready for that?
I am ready for that.
This is the point when you, yeah, I don't know if there is any.
All right, so we have a speaker card from Mr. Prosek.
Good afternoon again. I'm Jack Prosek. I was the one that submitted the overall idea of making these modifications, although, can you put that back up, please? Brian's plan here is a little bit different than what I envisioned in my mind. I'm a civil engineer, but not a traffic engineer, so. First point is on Lucille Lane. I thought that green area zone extended across both the through and the right turn lanes in the plans for 401 Taylor.
I believe in the latest plan, that's not the case. And the
Oh.
reason was that having it extend across the right turn lane was going to be somewhat confusing for drivers.
Well, I
in
was
terms of where they
worried
stop.
about that too, and that's why I made a point about the education because you created a whole a waiting zone there for bicyclists across all three lanes, according to the drawings that were approved by the planning commission and the and the city council. So I'm surprised to see that change. One of the other oddball things that happens right now is because you have two northbound lanes on Norris Drive, when vehicles are turning from eastbound Taylor onto Norris, normally they should turn into the nearest lane. But all too quickly, that nearest lane turns into a left turn only lane. And in my mind, and if you ever go out there and you watch, you can tell the people who have driven that route before, because they all go immediately to the right-hand lane. Couple other comments on your presentation. First of all, the traffic counts are totally up in the air. College Park, like all the high schools in the district, moved their starting time back 30 minutes in the morning. So that's different. And secondly, I expect to see a horrendous or humongous improvement in the traffic situation on Norris Drive with when the signal light is activated at Taylor and Civic, because we get a lot of people, especially in the morning, come down there because they don't feel safe, especially making a left turn onto Taylor out of Civic Drive right now. So that will be a huge benefit to this whole thing. And that's part of the reason that, along with the 401 Taylor development, that all motivated me to say, now is the time to put this on the table and make it happen. But overall, as I say, your bike lane's a little different than I had envisioned, but I understand the reasons for it. And I'll just add one more comment, and that is that having had to renew my license a year or so ago, I reread the book, and I find that we're now required to move into the bicycle lane when we're making a right turn. Within, but not, it doesn't have a minimum distance. It says within no more than 200 feet of the intersection. And as I drive around town here, there are a lot of places where where your dotted lines are very short, if non-existent at all, to indicate that it's time for the motor vehicles to move into the bicycle lane. And somebody honked at me at southbound Contra Costa Boulevard at Viking the other day, because that bike lane is not wide enough for a vehicle at that point. But he was upset, and furthermore, it's all but impossible to see around that corner at that particular location because of the fence and all there. But and I also note further north on Contra Costa Boulevard southbound, there used to be a right turn lane at the Chevron station there, and that was taken out, but still an awful lot of people do use the bike lane as a right turn lane at that location. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you for your contribution, John.
One other thing just came to mind, this gentleman started talking about the bike lane. The design is, can you put that back? Sorry, Ryan, I'm looking at it, and that wide green area, was that also intended for bicycles to make a left onto Taylor?
I have to stop sharing to see if anyone's joined.
Oh, I'm
That's why I
sorry.
get- No, no.
I started wondering about, because you got bicycles that can go on the crosswalks, and then you have them there, but is that intended to make a left onto Taylor from that lane?
I'm sorry, from the,
If you're heading south on, I guess that would be Norse, and most people will probably go straight to Lucille, but can you make a left from that green bike lane onto Taylor?
So technically, as a bicyclist, you have to move into the shared through left to make a left turn, because otherwise you'll be making a left in front of potentially a through vehicle. So if there's a vehicle going through and you're trying to make a left from the bike lane, you're gonna have a conflict there. You can't. You would technically need to move into the shared through left. Now, what we could do is do a two-stage turn box where you go across the intersection and then wait for Taylor to turn green, and then you go across Lucille, for example. So the movement would be, you come across here, there's a box right here where you wait as a bicyclist, and then you wait for Taylor to, turn green, and then you can continue across. So it's a two-stage turn box. In this case, because Taylor has, I would say, limited bicycle facilities on it and pretty high-speed traffic, it wouldn't be considered sort of an all ages and abilities type facility. And so we wouldn't be putting in a lot of additional facilities to facilitate that turn.
Well, that's the thing, is if you make that left, you'd have to get into that bicycle lane heading, towards Concord or whatever you want to say. But you're going across 3 lanes, or to a lane, another bicycle lane, and a right lane to get into that bicycle lane there.
Coming,
When you're heading
this is very touchy.
heading south, I guess.
Coming down this direction.
Yeah, you're going there and
Yeah.
if you
So
make
to turn left, you'd want to move into this lane.
so that would be even more of a discussion on that green area, that there should be something that's almost has to really just to delineate that straight across Lucille.
Oh, I
Otherwise,
see
people
what you're
they're gonna go left on that lane
Yeah.
because they're not gonna know what to do. It's education, but I think it's kind of a design. It's early in the design, so it's probably something that's.
Brian, you have the same condition northbound on Lucille.
Yeah, that's true. It's the same condition going northbound. If you want to turn left, there's a shared through left and you don't want to be turning left in front of
Same
through.
thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And I think most experienced bicyclists know they need to move it the line.
Yeah, and that's kind of the trade-off here is that it's experienced bicyclists that are probably using the on-street bike lanes on Taylor versus the less experienced who would get on potentially the canal trail or the trail going up on the south side of Taylor to connect up to the canal trail. That I will be checking on if there's a gap there.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Interesting discussion.
Okay, I think, are there any more
Maybe I can't.
wanting to make comment, Ryan?
I do not see any hands raised.
Sorry?
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, so we'll close that for public comment now and we'll move on to Pleasant Hill Road, Geary Road to Oak Park Boulevard. So I'll hand back over to you again.
All right, thank you. So I put this on the agenda because we've actually been receiving a steady stream, I'll say, of kind of requests and concerns related to Pleasant Hill Road and specifically between Geary Road and Oak Park Boulevard. I think there's a couple of things that are contributing to that. One, school is back in and there is school people going to Pleasant Hill Elementary across Pleasant Hill Road, which I'll talk about more. There's also a single vehicle crash there 3 weeks ago, something like that, 2 weeks ago, where a car actually flipped in this section as well. So more attention recently to this. So put it on the agenda today. I'm mostly just going to give some background on it, open it up for discussion, and then I've got some next steps in terms of what I will be doing, looking at the road some more. So this is the segment we're talking about from Oak Park Boulevard down to Geary Road. It has one 90-degree curve and then the start of the curve back. For the most part, it's 2 lanes, somewhat rural in characteristic, I would say, due to the lack of crosswalks, or sorry, sidewalks. Pleasant Hill Elementary, as I mentioned, is right at the intersection of Oak Park and Pleasant Hill Road, as well as the Learn and Play Montessori is right next to it. So this is right on the edge of the city limits. So the blue area is Pleasant Hill. We've also got some Walnut Creek to the south and then unincorporated Contra Costa to the west. So for a large segment of this, it's actually Contra Costa County is half of the road and Pleasant Hill is the other half. So that's the section through there. It's a 30-mile-per-hour posted speed limit. And as you go around the corner towards Pleasant Hill Elementary, traveling north, you reach the 25-mile-per-hour school zone. So right now there's a traffic signal at Geary and Pleasant Hill Road where it turns, and then an always stop at Oak Park and Pleasant Hill Road. In between there, it's just side street stops at the intersections. So this stretch between these 2 locations is uncontrolled on Pleasant Hill Road. But as we have talked about before, the intersection improvement project that's going in at the school areas is putting in an always stop at Paradise Lane. So just to the south of Oak Park Boulevard. And we did just, the council did just approve that contract last night. So that's going to be moving forward into construction soon. So that's probably in a 2-month, 3-month timeframe. In terms of pedestrian facilities, so the blue that just popped up is sidewalk or path, basically something that's physically separated from the vehicle lanes, especially at the south where there was a big project that improved the Geary Road, Pleasant Hill Road intersection. New concrete sidewalks were put in there where the blue is shown. And then there is sidewalk basically going north from Oak Park Boulevard on that west side that continues down to about this point where it stops. And then there's a very short segment here and then in front of the Learn and Play Montessori School as well. There's also a segment that is shoulder. It's basically where there is paved space and just a white stripe. In some cases, sometimes it's not even a white stripe, but with width, that's enough for someone to walk. So you can see how that this makes it so you have to go back and forth if you want to walk down Pleasant Hill Road, and a large segment of it basically has no sidewalks. And then there's currently 4 uncontrolled crosswalks. So uncontrolled meaning there's not a stop or yield for Pleasant Hill Road or a stop or traffic signal. So those are at Diablo View Road, Tealand Road, Withers, and then Paradise. Again, Paradise is going to be changing to an always stop. So that dot would come off this map with that project. There was a previous study that was done in 2000. So it's actually getting pretty old now. 2000 didn't used to seem like a long time ago, but I guess it is now. So this was done in February 2000, adopted by council. As I said, it's somewhat old, so some of the recommendations may be changed at this point, given just that thinking around design of roads has changed a bit. But I did want to throw up the objectives that came out of this project, because I think they still all apply there in terms of improving safety, especially around the school, keeping it at 2 lanes along here, so not widening out to a larger road at some point, reducing through traffic volume, so cut through traffic, slowing traffic down, improving pedestrian and bicycle access, and then also improving drainage and landscaping along the roadway corridor. So those were the objectives, which I think for the most part are still objectives that I'm hearing about from the residents that messaged in. So the big concerns that I'm hearing are vehicle speeds. Posted 30 mph, hear a lot about drivers going faster than that. And this makes it harder to cross the street. It makes it less comfortable and feel less safe walking along the streets, and also more challenging to turn into and out of intersections and driveways along there. And then specifically around students traveling to and from school. So the map at the bottom is the catchment area for Pleasant Hill Elementary. And then I highlighted the corridor there in blue. So you can see quite a bit is on the west side of Pleasant Hill Pleasant Hill Road that need to travel to Pleasant Hill Elementary. And it's one of the photos I received from a resident who took a picture of a student scootering along the road. Also, there's several access points to the backside of Pleasant Hill Road. So even just getting across Pleasant Hill Road can give you access to Pleasant Hill Elementary without walking up and down Pleasant Hill Road. And then also sight distance, similar to what we heard about last month, which was a different segment of Pleasant Hill Road, but person concerned with people parking right up to the intersection and not being able to see when they pull out. So also have heard about that on this segment. And then also just visibility of those crosswalks at the intersections as well. So recent efforts, new pedestrian crossing signs just went in at 2 of the crossings. That one of them did not have any pedestrian crossing signs, and the other had a pretty old one. So those just went in. Unfortunately, one is right in the trees. So we're getting out there to trim that, but was exciting to get those out there. And then a resident has actually raised money in the neighborhood to add these See Me flags. So basically they are like this. They sit in those holders and you grab a flag and wave it as you're going across to just increase visibility. So we're working on the encroachment permit so that the resident can install these on 2 of the crossings. And then again, new flashing always stop at Paradise Lane, which should go in the next couple months. So the next steps I see for this, getting the encroachment through for those flags, going to conduct a speed survey and traffic counts. It hasn't been done for a while on this segment, so want to get new data to be reviewing. Looking at site distance, similar to what we did for the other location on Pleasant Hill Road. And then making recommendations based on all that and looking for opportunities to fund those, because there will probably be a range of costs to implement some of that. So I will bring back the results when we have them, which potentially, at least on the speed front, could be as early as the November meeting. So that's my presentation. Wanted to hear any feedback from you all and from the public on this to inform what we're looking at over the next couple months.
So Ryan, yeah, this is obviously really important safety issues that you're dealing with, and they're tough. I mean, the 2000 study, I see more relevance to that study from being, at Pleasant Hill up from Gregory to the school possibly, or a little before, but the area between Geary and the school, I don't see it to be relevant at all. I guess the question is, it looks like a great part of this is also county owned and part of it's Walnut Creek. It sounds like we're taking on a full responsibility here. Is there any discussions with them about coming up with some multi-jurisdictional solution here?
So Walnut Creek really is south of this. So I would say this segment does not include Walnut Creek.
Do any of the residents, do they express concern or?
Well, we do have residents in Walnut Creek that attend Pleasant Hill Elementary. And so they've actually been working with both cities to get improved crossings on Geary Road. So across Geary, because that gets to the back of Pleasant Hill Elementary as well. So Walnut Creek's kind of taking on the Geary side of things. But it is a good point. I've been in talks with Contra Costa County, and so we'll continue to do that. But that's a good point.
There could be some funding through the county even on these.
Yep.
Anyway, that's all. Thank you.
It does seem to me, since I drive that section quite a bit, that it seems like there's a lot of speeding along there. And the road, as you said, it has a rural feel to it. It's kind of odd, yet there's houses along most of it. So I mean, my inclination would be, wait to the conclusion of your study, but to try to somehow enforce the speed limit, or maybe even reduce it a little bit, maybe to 25. I'm not really sure. But I think once people get on that section of Pleasant Hill Road, I mean, they're on the way to the freeway,
That's right.
or Lunardi's. I mean, then, I don't think there's much for most people. They're out of town and they're off to their destination.
Yeah, and your point reminded me, Paul, that another reason that people are asking about this is because City of Lafayette just installed several of the radar feedback signs on their segment as you go over the hill towards Acalanes and Spring Hill Elementary. And so that also has, several people have asked for those on Pleasant Hill Road, which could be a good solution. So I'll be looking at that with the speeds.
Is that road Pleasant Hill? Or I don't know what the county would call it. Is it in the county master plan of highways? That stretch?
This stretch that we're talking about, it is not.
So
It's
county doesn't have any plans to widen it or anything? like
no.
that? Okay. Because it is a straight shot to the 24. It's
Yeah, well, on the Lafayette side, you mean?
Well,
Once they,
you just go past Lenardi's and
yeah,
most people are heading to the 24 or
right.
Moraga or whatever. So.
Yeah, and the benefit here is we have Taylor as the main through route in that regard. So there is an alternative that is more of a regional route than this segment of Pleasant Hill Road. So I think that helps make the case for why this does not need to get widened.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I think it's one of those very difficult roads to actually do the best for all users. I think one of the problems is it's a bit up and down too, isn't it? And it feels like a road through as Paul says, through a rural area. And it's sort of indeterminate width as well. It sort of goes from about 35 feet back down. And the boundaries aren't delineated. But on the other hand, it's almost as if it presents natural traffic calming that keeps the speed down. But I use it perhaps 3 or 4 times a week. And
Busy road.
I avoid school times, absolutely, because my experience is it gets very, I think chaotic is perhaps overstating, but it gets very busy there, and not everybody is that careful about, their road safety, and it's quite hair-raising, actually, I think.
Absolutely.
And I think it's a very difficult problem to solve. And as you said, it's not pedestrian friendly because there are areas where it's really too narrow for people to walk, or bicycle friendly as either.
It's a challenge. Well, Taylor serves on more the northern side, but most people on the southern side, they're gonna go on Pleasant Hill to get to the 24.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely not just a local road. So it's serving a lot of people. You also reminded me, Richard, just that I didn't mention there's several drainage structures, creek crossings that are also major constraints along there. So those are more challenging than just widening the road.
Yeah, could I ask, does it have a bad accident record, or have you not perhaps reached that point?
Yeah, I did not pull that for this. So I'll remember to do that for the
I
next
would
one.
imagine it could have.
Mhm.
If everyone's done, we can turn to public comments now. Jack, could you come on? Jack, they won't be able to minute your comment if you don't speak into the microphone.
I was just surprised when you said that some of the students come from Walnut Creek. I am assuming that's south of Gary Road, and I can't pick up where Gary Road is in that map. That's
Right here.
oh, so there's a significant number of students that come from south of Gary Road. So yeah,
Yep.
But they're gonna want to see.
that's
the
a
value.
very significant number.
And they have been getting across Gary. There's a couple crosswalks that the city of Walnut Creek is focusing on making easier to get across. So, yeah. Okay, so
If I just add one more thing, that when you get to the shopping center, Palos Verdes Mall, when you turn right as you're going up towards Lafayette, then you've got sort of a mini freeway effect
Absolutely.
almost. And it's true in the other direction as well. And you've got 2 lanes coming downhill. It's a smooth surface. You want to go fast, because you're on your way. But when you get to this section of Pleasant Hill Road, you kind of touched on this. Not only is the width variable, it seems like the surface is quite variable also. I mean, it's not in terms of potholes, but just in terms of the vertical alignment of it.
Absolutely right. Drops actually.
Right.
It just comes right down with that left.
all right, sounds like there's a problem with the live stream.
Go
So
ahead.
Oh,
Yeah, when you make that left coming down.
recording.
Lafayette onto Pleasant Hill.
video
You
is
really have to
started.
know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know where you're going.
That's a Philly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we got 2 people asking to talk. Okay.
Traffic.
Is everyone done?
So I have a couple, yeah, if commissioners are done, there's a couple.
Yeah, let's move
in their
to-
hands. Okay. So the first one is Seaball.
Hey Ryan, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Oh, hi everyone. My name is Sibel Slavsky. I'm a resident on Teagland Avenue. I have been emailing and working with Ryan. So first of all, thank you so much for helping us get the crosswalk signs installed at Teagland Road. I think all of the residents are very excited about it. One of the points that were brought up is that, people are going fast and making, turning at the Geary light and then turning onto Pleasant Hill Road. And even though it's a 2-lane road, people drive on it like it's a mini highway. And many of us have dogs or have kids that walk to school using these, I can't remember the word, but it's the crosswalks that aren't monitored. And it's really dangerous because people do not go the speed limit, nor do they want to stop because I think, as many of you pointed out, they're on their way to either 24 or going grocery shopping. On several occasions, I've only lived here for 2 years, and on several occasions, more than once, I've almost come very close to getting hit. Even just trying to stand in the crosswalk waiting for people to stop. So whatever the city can do to help, I know that this is a difficult situation because of the fact that Pleasant Hill Road is divided and the county owns half of the road and Pleasant Hill owns the other half. So while I understand it's very challenging, I would hope that there's some way that we could either work together and get, help from other residents within the county, because we all live very close together. And even though we might be located in different cities, we all have the same problem. And most of that comes from Pleasant Hill Road. So I appreciate your time and I thank you very much.
Thanks, Seaball. And like she said, she is the one that raised the money for the flags and everything. So is taking on a lot of this. All right, one sec, we're working on the live stream. The Zoom was on, but not the live stream. Okay. Thanks, Lynn. All right, so I'm going to let in Matt Somerville now. Go ahead, Matt.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'm also a resident on Teagland Road. And I definitely appreciate everyone's comments on this because I agree with them all. And I think everyone has a good understanding of how fast people go. I think I rode into the city maybe back in 2018 and was told there was a study done that people don't actually speed on the road, which I can't possibly fathom that that's true. Maybe it was a different section of the road because people definitely go really fast. And I think a lot of it is that sight line, what you're talking about with the vertical. People come over from after Withers, you're kind of higher up and you really can't see that there's a crosswalk between Teagland and Lucille. I think my only other comments are when you talk about access from, let's say, Lucille Lane to Pleasant Hill Elementary, you were kind of talking about how there's sidewalks and shoulder and you have to kind of go back and forth. Along that bend, you can't actually go back and forth. You just have to walk on the, walking towards Pleasant Hill Elementary, you have to walk on the shoulder. And then the small strip of sidewalk you mentioned, it's hard to say if that's a sidewalk or someone's driveway. So, obviously maybe you can kind of walk into the driveway, but you can't cross over and get to safer passage and your back is going to be the traffic. I walked it recently and it gets really thin on the shoulder there. And I think if you're facing traffic, it's not so bad, but if your back is to it, it's kind of dangerous. And then if you have a stroller, like if you have anything extra, it's just a no-go. So then your other option is the pedestrian bridge through Lucille Lane. But if you have a stroller, you're pretty much giving your baby whiplash going down that thing. So I just think if there's any way to make that walk towards Pleasant Hill Elementary, like giving residents access to the rest of the city, other than that little wooden bridge, that would be great. Somehow making it safer. There also is that unfortunate paint spill that happened that goes all along Pleasant Hill Road in front of Pleasant Hill Elementary that kind of splattered across the shoulder line. So you can't actually tell where the shoulder is because of the paint splatter. So that's just a side note. And that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. All right, and then I have Cher Sprague.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm Cherry Sprague, and I also live on Teaglin Road. And I probably walk down Teaglin Road and all around the area every morning and have done this for years. I've lived here 8 years. But what really alarms me, and I think Matt kind of hinted at it several times, is that lately, especially this year, at the end of last year, noticing how many parents were walking with maybe 2 children and a dog sometimes, and maybe a stroller, and they were moving from Geary to the Lucille area to go down that little wooden bridge into the back of Pleasant Hill School. And I think now we're up to about maybe 10 or 12. And there would be no way I would let a child of mine walk that road alone. And I even worry when I see parents with them, because the parent, of course, is near the shoulder. And there's like really no places at times to really walk. And first rule of really walking is face the traffic, okay? And here are all these parents walking with their backs to the traffic, and the people are speeding by. So I think there's that one section that needs really to be taken care of sooner than later. Otherwise, I'm just so happy that you're looking at it, and we're going to have some work on it. Potentially lower speed limits would be wonderful too. So thank you for doing this, and I hope to hear your results of the study, and I'll be back as well. But thank you all for attending to it.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
And then I have a 650 number that I'm going to bring up. So go ahead. I see a hand raised for 650 number.
Sorry, Ryan. It was Seabell. I was trying to get in.
Okay.
Make a comment. I called in on 2 devices. I apologize.
No problem. All right, it looks like that is everybody that we've got. So back to you, Richard.
Are we all done on that one?
Yep.
No? Okay, so we'll move up to the follow-up on the commissioner's requests from the previous meetings.
All right. Okay, so we had a couple things. Stephen, I think you brought these up, so I wanted to share some things back. So one of them was the Walnut Creek crosswalk treatment that has gone in on several streets where the lanes, where the skip stripe on the lane goes to this sort of, this thing that you cannot see. One moment. There it is. So on Bancroft, Mount Diablo, and North Main Street, they put this in at all the uncontrolled crossings across, and these are all 4-lane, well, or 5-lane if you count the turn lane roads with a pretty long crossing distance for pedestrians. So it includes this striping to stop drivers from passing a stopped vehicle. If one driver stops for the crosswalk, it discourages another car from passing them to get around, which is a dangerous condition for pedestrians. And then also has these channelizers. The lanes go down to 10 feet, so it has a traffic calming effect. So the whole idea is to slow down traffic and make them more aware of the pedestrian crossing. So I reached out to the city. They don't currently have kind of a before after type study going, but did hear that the county is planning to install this on Oak Road. So just south of Treat, I believe, where there's a couple uncontrolled crossings. So they all seem to be excited with the results of it so far. I thought about where this could go in Pleasant Hill. We actually have a pretty limited number of multi-lane uncontrolled crosswalks. So there's 2 on Gregory. One of them has the RFB beacon, one does not. The beacon one is where there's a crossing guard, and that's getting upgraded with this latest project to add some advanced RRFBs. But that's a potential place that this could go. Contra Costa Boulevard at Doris, where there's a RRFB there as well. And then what was the other one? Oh, on Morello. There's actually 2 on Morello. One of them is where we're going to install an all-way stop with this. So we're going to be down to 4 locations. And so it's something that we could consider at those. So I'll be thinking about that, and if it would make sense to wrap any of that into the intersection improvement project. Another one, also yours, I think, was the Patterson Longfellow Crosswalk. This is over by the Safeway Shopping Center.
7-Eleven.
7-Eleven, yep. So I think you just asked about curb ramps here because there aren't any. So the challenge with bringing this up to ADA standards is we also need something on the west side there. And right now, there's not any sort of sidewalk or landing. So we'd have to construct, basically I see 2 options. You could construct kind of a sidewalk and a curb return over on that side. There's a valley gutter going across that creates some challenges with all of that. And then I also looked if it would make sense to bring it to the 7-Eleven side. But the challenge there, it's still a similar challenge with the valley gutter. So there's some drainage stuff that would need to be worked out to make that ADA compliant. But also it's where Patterson is now 3 lanes. So there's some additional conflict there. And it feels a little bit more in the intersection and driveways and everything. So I'm not sure that that's a better place in terms of conflicts.
It's like, I wasn't even suggesting that we do any of that. It's just that we have a non-conforming, non-compliant situation where, and there you have assisted care facilities right here. And I see people trying to cross that street over there, and they're confused, wheelchairs and stuff. I don't know, I mean, maybe get rid of it. I don't even know what the solution is, but it's definitely strange.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. It's just a larger project than what I was, well, not necessarily than what I was thinking of, but we have to kind of just add it to our list of projects. So I think that's good, but wanted to just circle back on that.
Ananton said he was going to get back on this was, it happened again last week to me. I had to go to DVC for something, and right at Norse and Viking, there's the big four-way stop there. And I was on Norse, and a very quiet car went right through the stop at 30 miles an hour. And I don't think they saw it. I swear. And I've seen, it's happened to me a couple of times. So it's happened to me, probably happened to other people. But the solution, I don't think, is a big money one. I think those stop signs, I think I've seen them in Concord where they have these solar things on top and they flash.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people see it, because they're really funky old stop signs that really, they're really washed out. So I'm just thinking people just don't notice them. During the school rush time, that's not a problem because you don't need to because you're going to be stopped.
And the flashing stop signs are what we're putting in at at 7 locations with the schools.
Well,
There doesn't happen to be a crossing guard at Viking Norse, and so that was not one of the intersections. So I'll
just look at it.
yeah, I'll look at it.
Thank you.
I think there's
That's
also
on
the complication here. You've got 2 Safeways entry points, haven't you, as well? You can see the
Yeah, that's
one of those, which makes,
yeah.
it's a problem where you put that
Oh, it's a mess.
crosswalk. If you put it too far down, nobody will use it.
It's a mess.
It's a busy point actually, and you've got a
It is.
7-Eleven on the other side.
Yeah. Yep. We'll continue to look at opportunities to improve that. It's just a larger project. Yeah.
And did all those, yeah.
And there is, of course, a seniors home just down the road,
There's-
isn't there? The Carlton,
There's several of them, actually.
which is
Like
very
4 of
close.
them.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that was all I had on that. I think we're on to commissioner and liaison comments, which I can start if you'll allow me. I just had a couple other updates I wanted to give. So last time we talked about the no parking on Pleasant Hill Road at the one spot. Wanted to give you an update on that. The sign is in, so no parking installed there. And then the other one was the intersection of Santa Monica and Santa Lucia, where we talked about adding in the yield control there, and that is also in. So we're able to knock out a few of those things pretty quickly. So always nice to be able to do that. And then an update just on the bike ped plan. It's going through some revisions based on the planning commission meeting and comments that were heard then. And then we'll go back to planning commission once those are ready, hopefully by November. I had a goal of end of the year, not of getting the whole thing adopted. We're running out of time. But it is in progress still. Just wanted to give you an update on that.
So in fact, you've worked both sides of that plan, right?
Well, never as a consultant, but as the chair and traffic
As
safety
sitting on
commission.
this side of this.
Yes.
Yes, interesting, yes. Maybe you can incorporate some of the concerns that you had as a commissioner. Enough for me.
I wonder if I could just pick up on just a couple of points that you might be able to just update us very briefly on what's happening on them just from the last minutes. And so I think a lady came in and talked about Longfellow Drive and Shallow Drive and the parking around there. Has that an email come in at all?
No, we didn't. I did not receive one on that. Yeah.
Right. So if she's listening, I'd urge her to send it in.
Which street, I'm sorry, which street did you say? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I was gonna, it's right
Yeah.
by my house. There's just, the center parking just bleeds into that area, and where they live is actually, people are parking more and more as you get closer to Keats, and that's where the street gets less and lesser improved, so it's hard to even get around sometimes. on the
Yeah.
street.
I think I feel like that's come before the commission before. And I think there was some red curb added.
There's also a parking permit, something with a parking permit or something they talk about, I don't know, so you need a permit, in some area. I'm not sure.
There is already.
There's some signs that are up there. I don't know if they're enforced or what.
Hmm.
but
Look
maybe-
into that.
Yeah.
Someone did comment maybe a couple of years ago, and we did add some red curb paint in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think it was on Longfellow.
There's just no curb over there.
Right,
It's kind of like the crosswalk discussion. we just had.
It's a somewhat unique area.
We think so.
And I'd just perhaps like to repeat something that was said last time where we were all invited to the school bike festival at Pleasant Hill Elementary School, which is 14th of October. So week on Saturday.
Yep, at Pleasant Hill Elementary.
I think just very briefly, parking prohibitions at Pleasant Hill Road and Pleasant View Drive, I think.
Yes, that's the one that the sign was installed.
Right, we covered that, okay. And I think, and so we're talking about the Oak Park Boulevard sidewalk project that's now going for the southern side, is that? coming?
Yeah, and that's Pretty close to done, I believe. All the concrete is poured at this point. They installed, there's
The north
two.
side certainly done.
Yeah, I believe the south side, there's been a lot of progress on too. Because there was both the development on the corner that was building a portion of it, and then there was going to be a gap, and so that gap's getting filled as well. And I'm pretty sure that it's all been poured at this point. Beacons have been installed, or as of yesterday, they were in the process of installing the new flashing beacons for the crossing as well. And the other piece was continuing around Hook. I believe the last concrete work is to build the curb ramp on the gas station corner, because right now it's there's no curb ramp there.
I mean, you might be behind the scenes, but the contractors have done an amazing job on that project because, I mean, that's an infill project to the max. To keep that road open, what they were doing was pretty impressive.
I have been impressed.
Yeah, it's a good job. I mean, I couldn't fathom doing that work.
And could I ask, Ryan, what's happening about the crosswalk? You know, sorry, I'm sounding like a broken record here, but I was talking about, you know, the fact that vehicles were free to park right up to the crosswalk so that it completely obscured somebody standing at the side.
Was that at Via del Sol? Or
Sorry?
Was that the crosswalk at Via del Sol?
Yeah.
You're talking about on Oak Park, right? I believe that's all. We're adding a bunch of no parking signs.
I know it was moved from the other side of the
Okay.
intersecting road on there, and it
Oh.
had, I think parking was banned there, but when it was moved, it wasn't, the same treatment wasn't given. And I suppose a simple fix, although it's probably too late now, is just a bulb out, you know, so that the person standing waiting to cross is actually visible to drivers.
So you're talking about coming westbound or eastbound?
Yes, westbound side, yes,
Okay.
yes. You remember
There's
I-
some new no parking restrictions going in there. So I think
You may
that,
remember I saw an incident that scared the life out of me. So.
yeah. And the beacons will be a big improvement.
I don't
too.
think it's the same relevance on the other side.
Mhm.
The visibility is much better there.
Yeah, if you go by there now, you'll see the beacon is installed there, and the bar that flashes is actually pretty high up. So I think the visibility should be pretty good there. It's also including lights, so street lights at the
Right.
crosswalk. So solar powered, which up until very recently, that technology was not available to actually power a street light with solar. So we'll potentially see that more. So yeah, I think they should be wrapping everything up in the next 3 weeks or so. So then Taylor and Civic is the other big one going on. The signal poles are still on order, but they are still planning to open up the curb ramp so that the sidewalk can be open in front of the police station and everything. That should be in the next couple of weeks, I think.
Okay. So perhaps we'd like to move on to the next item then, if we're all done on that one, to follow up commission request. Oh, sorry, commissioner and liaison reports. So,
Yep, that's it for my side. So if you all have anything else.
Just was curious, I mean, several months ago, Jaime made that presentation on the Taylor Sun Valley Contra Costa Bicycle Lane Improvement Project. Has there been any progress or any update on that?
Oh, yes, that went out to bid. The bids came back too high, so they were rejected. So it's still in progress, kind of figuring out how to rescope that. But the hope is to get it out to rebid in the next month or so, when the contractors are slowing down on their work and have
Is
time.
that right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
okay, are we all done? Anything more anybody wishes to raise? No? Okay, thank you very much for attending today.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for everybody's contributions. So there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned. The next meeting will be on November the 7th, 2023. So thank you all very much for your contributions.
Thank you.
Well done.